It's okay. We've been here before. Carry on the light. They won't know it hurts more. It's okay. We've been here before. Carry on the light. They won't know it hurts more. It's okay. We've been here before. Carry on the light. They won't know it hurts more.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HP Podcast, episode number 326. I'm Ben, and with me here today is your loveliest Canadian in the middle of torrential downpours, Dave. Or Davey, if you prefer. Dave, how are you?
I'm good. Nothing started yet. It's just been like really windy all day, and it's one of those days where you get all these like storm watches and then nothing happens. But
Yeah.
I did warn Ben, and I'll warn the audience that if I suddenly disappear, many terrible things could have happened, but it's likely that my power went out. So
Yeah.
I'll just kind of give that warning ahead of time.
Yeah, we had probably about, I don't know, an hour ago, they finished the bulk of them. I think we're supposed to get some more, but I was getting I was in a work meeting and I was getting like multiple alerts on my phone telling me like, take shelter, seek, whatever, 80-mile-an-hour winds. And I was like, I'm just
Buy
sitting
toilet
here.
paper.
Buy toilet paper, tariffs are coming, all sorts of alerts. And then I ran in between the meeting and hopping on here with you. I just ran downstairs real quick to talk to the family, and my youngest was like, logs were falling out of the sky onto our house. And I was like, it's probably maybe some larger sticks, but anyway, it's fine here. So it's got to be the same there, even though you're in a whole different country.
Yeah, I'm directly north of you.
Yeah.
This is your monthly reminder that Ben and I are in different countries, but we're very close to each other. So
That's right.
Yeah, whatever you get, I get. And but the thing is weather kind of moves in this sort of like sliver pattern, and it goes from west to east. So like theoretically, if something is getting you, unless it's like a massive system, it won't hit me because it'll just kind of like slice by and go south because I'm like directly north of you. So yeah. If you just got it, then it might pass us. But
it's interesting how you're not maybe if you got down to the mile, it'd be different. But if you look at a map, you pretty much are directly north of me.
If somebody can look up what's north south, is that latitude?
Longitude is latitude, fatitude. I remember that. So longitude is north and south.
Okay, so if somebody can look up the longitude of Butler, Pennsylvania, and Grimsby, Ontario, and see if they're directly above each other, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be close. I've looked at it, and I'm pretty sure it's it's very, very close.
Yeah.
Radek, I did do my civic duty yesterday, so big news, everyone. Vice Chancellor, or sorry, Grand Chancellor Carney is officially in power. To defend us against. Never mind. I can't do that. I come to the States next week, so. We had another election. Yeah, I just talked about this like a couple weeks ago, or like a couple months ago, when we had a provincial snap election,
Right.
and then we had a federal snap election, and it's all because of the same stuff. But yeah, I told you then how exciting it was for to have a provincial election. I love watching the election night coverage and seeing like the seats get filled up and those little race to majority and that kind of stuff. And we had another one last night and it was super fun. So yeah, exciting times for sure.
Politics and everything aside, provincial, whatever, forget it. The thing I want to know is, how do you feel about all of your elected officials' names, like not their person names, but their title names, sounding like they belong in the Empire in Star Wars?
So like Prime Minister, Premier. Yeah, it is
Grand something. You said Grand something there a minute ago.
Oh, Grand Chancellor. I was just making that up.
I know.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit more archaic and medieval than what you guys are used to down there in the center of the universe, but I kind of like it. It's cool. It feels a little bit more classic. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to go to Parliament Hill in Ottawa, which is, the capital of Canada is not Toronto, it's Ottawa, and that's where our version of the White House is, and it looks very grand and very like it looks old. It looks like a castle, and it's this was a nation built off a monarchy and still has ties to a monarchy, so there's little reminders here or there that's kind of what it is. But
yeah. A couple things from chat. Derek says, everyone, don't forget to save your evening Pokemon trading card game Pocket opening because there's a new pack tomorrow. Well, Derek, I open both of my packs for the day right before I go to bed. So about 2:00 in the morning is when I normally open them. And I think the new day technically will have started in TCGP, so I think I'll be okay. But I appreciate it. Thank you. It's crazy. I literally have 2 cards left in the pack that came out last. I mean, I've got tons missing from the ones before. So a new pack coming out tomorrow. It's just a tad too early. I don't have quite enough to buy them, but it's okay. Benji responds and says 79.8953 west or degrees west for Butler. 79.5624 degrees west for Grimsby. So we're 0.33 degrees apart from each, or like longitudinally separate from each other. I have no idea what that means practically, like how many miles that is, but it's pretty dang close. I can tell you that much.
Benji says 20 miles, or in the Queen's English, 37 kilometers. So
okay.
That's what, 30 minutes for you?
Depends on how fast I'm going.
Yeah, not far at all, Ben. So there you go. I am the top, and you are the bottom, almost directly. That's the term we're gonna go with.
If that's what we got to do, that's what we got to do. We've gone now for 9 minutes of the show since we launched it. Not mentioned Brandon. Sorry, Brandon. Brandon, I think he announced it last week on the show. He started a new job, and he told us there may be some like weird scheduling stuff at the beginning here. So we're not really sure what that looks like yet, but Brandon's not here, we think, because of work. He texted us yesterday, was like, hey, I won't be able to make the show. And we just didn't, that's all we know. So Brandon's not here. For those of you just on audio waiting to listen to him speak finally, I'm sorry to disappoint you. He's not here this week. So enough suspense. But this is the HP podcast, where we sometimes talk about Grand Chancellors and video games. You can find us over on patreon.com/handsomephantom if you want to help support us. Actually, you can find us there even if you don't want to help support us. But we appreciate those of you who do support us for as little as $1 a month, less than a quarter an episode. We appreciate you very much, helping keep the lights on. If you're on audio, you get ad-free early access to the show. If you're not a patron or you're not on audio, you can always tune in live to the video on YouTube every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern Time. We appreciate those of you who are hanging out with us here live. You can also hang out with us in our Discord, where Edward Walton inadvertently spoils Clair Obscur story beats.
Yeah, can we talk about that for a second? I meant to yell at people on Discord, and I didn't because I just decided to ignore messages. But if you guys are talking about Clair Obscur, a very story narrative-driven game, try to avoid stuff that maybe other people who are playing haven't reached yet. Can't believe I have to say that. There's literally a spoiler button that you can use to block out your text so just people who want to see it can see it. You guys are better than that. Been here a long time. Get it together.
Yeah.
Rant over.
I'm like, I know I'm pretty sensitive to spoilers, so sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe that wasn't really a spoiler. But some of the stuff flying around, y'all know better. That's all I'm gonna say. Anyway, you can go to get spoiled. I'm just kidding. It wasn't that bad. handsomephantom.com/ I still don't want you to do it, but it wasn't that bad. handsomephantom.com/Discord and hang out with us there as well. I'm not reading Alex's last message. 2 messages actually. Sorry, Alex. Let's move on to the games. The game news. My gosh.
If that happened, Alex, I think I would get swapped out because a ginger is a minority. But anyways.
Well, yeah, so are Canadians, though, if you think about it. You can think about it in a lot of different ways. VG Charts says Indiana Jones, actually, they didn't say this, they just reported on it. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was the best-selling game in the US following the PS5 launch. Okay, so first of all, VG Charts, get your shit together because this article starts with a typo. The word executive is W-executive. Okay, get it together. Executive director and video game industry analyst at Circana, Matt Piscatella, has revealed the PS5 version of Indiana Jones and the Great Circle boosted sales for the game to #1 in the US for the week ending in April 19. This is the first time the game topped the weekly charts. However, the game did launch in December 2024 for the Xbox Series and PC, as well as Xbox Game Pass for both platforms. Quote, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle was the best-selling video game in the U.S. during the week ending April 19th, following its PS5 launch, said Piscatella. They just repeated themselves. VG, we're not using this source anymore, Dave. They're dead to us. Piscatella added the overwhelming majority of the sales during the week were from the PS5 version, and it only launched on the 17th, so that was only 2 days of data. Dave, did you play Indiana Jones, first of all?
I didn't. No.
Okay. First of all, Indiana Jones. Do you like Indiana Jones?
So I do, but the thing that got me was when I was watching some of the reviews, there was a lot of talk of stealth. Didn't really feel like playing a stealthy Dishonored-like game.
Yeah.
But I will later, and I'm sure I will play it at some point. I know you did, right?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. It's really, really good. And I mean, I love Indiana Jones, so there's a little bit of like bias going into it that I'm probably going to love it. But I also feel like that makes me a harsher critic.
Right.
Potentially, because like I love the franchise. Anyway, it's a great game. But what do you think of the fact that it sold, like this is an Xbox game, first party, came out multiple months, almost 5 months previous on Xbox and Game Pass and PC and everything. But it didn't hit the charts, at least not this high, until it came out on PS5. And most of those sales were from PS5. What do you think that says?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty impressive for, as you mentioned, a game that's over 4 months old now. And I think we're starting to see Microsoft's strategy of deferring their releases onto Sony's ecosystem really start to pay off. It was a couple of weeks ago we talked about some of the AA releases that they seem to kind of pilot at first, like Pentiment and Grounded, and I don't really want to call Sea of Thieves a AA, but It was one of the first, and how, you know, their sales appeared to be a little bit soft. But, you know, when you look at them from a relative perspective, they sold pretty well for the size of games they were. When you kind of factor in the point that a lot of Indiana Jones's promotional costs, operational costs, development costs have already been realized, sunk, whatever, from a business standpoint, I feel like all of the additional revenue that Microsoft is generating on Sony's platform, even if Sony is taking a cut, it's almost like found money. Like they're kind of seeing like this I don't know what the term is, but when you kind of give something a second life, you give it like a second spike. So you get that initial spike of Game Pass subscribers, and let's say it's 100,000, and you know, 70% of them play Indiana Jones and then they end their subscription, but 30% stick around. And then you put the game on PlayStation 4 months later and you sell a lot of copies. You have to sell a lot of copies to make it to the top of the charts in the US. So like these like kind of double whammies that Microsoft is going through is starting to show that their formula, their strategy with all of the IP that they spent so much money on for so long is starting to work. And, you know, they have diversified somewhat. Like we're not seeing every single game from Microsoft portfolio launch day one on Game Pass and then have a delayed release onto Sony. We're gonna have games like Doom, Clair Obscur, where, you know, they're launching day and date on both, but Microsoft is still realizing double benefits there. So it seems like they're putting games on these delayed releases with it seems like a little promotion, and they're just getting just as much boon for their buck, or bang for their buck. And there's a bit of a risk there, because I think sometimes people will see a game that's old that, you know, the masses have already talked about, and they're like, you know, it's not as exciting, so I'm just gonna, you know, I'm gonna go play something else. But it doesn't seem to be the case. And Forza Horizon's another one where like I can't see that game not doing well on PlayStation. Like I myself want to buy it again and platinum it, and it's arguably the best game that's come out on Microsoft's hardware this generation. So this formula, this strategy is really starting to work out for Microsoft, and I'm happy for it, because everybody wins. If you're a gamer and you only have PlayStation, you can play the best games that you haven't been able to play. If you're Microsoft, you're making good money. If you're Sony, you know, you're selling games on your platform because that's where the install base is. So, I mean, everybody wins. How can you argue with this, right?
The one group of people, Dave, that do not win are the Twitter fanboys who embrace one console over the other. Well, I guess the PlayStation fanboys went out because they're like, look, our platform is better. Your game had to come here to succeed, whatever. But then you have the Xbox fanboys who were like, they stole it, you know, you don't deserve this game. And I guess they're all getting impressions no matter what position they're coming from. But those people don't matter because they're not real people. Those are not real personalities. No one, very few people, I should say, there are people in their normal daily lives act like that to that extent. So anyway, but yeah, I think it's a smart strategy. I do wonder I wonder if this game performed better on PlayStation by launching 4 months later than it would have if it had launched day and date. Because you've already had months of time go by for people who played this on Xbox to talk about how great it was, because it was great. You already have those people who have talked it up and hyped it up to their friends, and they're like, oh, I'll get it when it comes out on PlayStation. I wonder if it would have sold less had it launched on both simultaneously. It's something you can't really ever find out for sure, because you can't A/B test the same game. But it is a fascinating thought study.
You better believe, though, that Microsoft is closely comparing the two launches or the two types of launches we just talked about, because there's plenty of examples of both. You know, we talked about the AA games that came out first. We've got examples like Forza and Indiana Jones. And then at the same time, you have things like Doom and Clair Obscur, which again are day and date. And they have to be comparing those two and seeing if the day one spike in Game Pass subscription offsets the sales they think they're losing by deferring the release. And
right.
The question is, are they going to stick to one strategy over the other in the future? Because one has to be doing better for them than the other. I would like to think that if the game comes out day and date across all consoles, then Game Pass suffers. And as
Yeah.
long as Game Pass is the main driver, the main performance piece for Microsoft, that whatever does best for that is what they want, because that's long-term revenue. It's not one shot. It's as an example I gave, where 30% of people stay, and that's, would you rather $80 today or $20 for 6 months? It's that sort of thing. So it will be interesting to see what strategy they commit to long term, because I think it's going to be one or the other.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Dave, you mentioned a couple times Doom and Clair Obscur in the same breath, talking about day and date. Just to check myself, Clair Obscur is not. It's just like a deal they signed. It's not published in any way by Xbox, is it?
No. So
Okay.
it's published by Kepler.
Okay, yeah.
So it's not. Maybe that's not a good example. Doom's probably a better one. But,
Yeah,
a game that, like, for someone like me and a lot of the people listening, is, you have a PlayStation, you have an Xbox, or you have Game Pass on PC. Where are you going to get it?
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Let's move on, unless you have anything else there.
Nothing. I'm going to play indie, I promise.
Yeah, you should, especially while you're on this Game Pass kick you got going. Real good. Unless you're going to buy it on your PlayStation, in which case...
Oblivion, that's another one.
Yeah,
Edward
Oblivion's a good example. Switch 2 publishers quietly step away from real physical game carts. This is from gamesindustry.biz, and this is an opinion piece. Essentially, well, Dave, do you want to go over this?
Sure.
Because you probably read it more thoroughly than I did.
It is an opinion piece, and we don't normally include these on here, but one, it was a slow news week, and two, it's kind of interesting. First off, we didn't really talk about Nintendo Switch 2 off the top. We had pre-orders come out the other week, or the other day. Any luck? Did you try?
I did try. I got one secured from Walmart.
No way. What was the experience like?
Okay, so the experience,
Was
I
it
had...
midnight, or was it in the morning?
It was midnight.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had Walmart, Target, and Best Buy pages open. And my preference was Target because of the whole red card thing. They give you the 5% off if you have a red card, which I do. But you can attach that both to debit or credit. So, I was like, whatever, I'm going to buy it either way. So I'll save the 5%, save myself a little bit of tax money. But I was refreshing on all of them. Walmart immediately put me in a queue. I had both versions on all three sites pulled up, both the version with Mario Kart and the version without Mario Kart. And Walmart immediately put me in a queue for both. Best Buy spun and spun and spun. Their like queue didn't set it live at first. So it was like half an hour or 45 minutes later. Target immediately let me click on it and add it to my cart. But once I got to my cart, I could not actually purchase the dang thing. First, they removed my payment method, which was my red card, which I had checked an hour before that to make sure it was in there, which meant I wasn't going to get the 5%, but hey, I had it in my card. I was still going to go through with that. When I went to add my payment method back in, it spun and spun and spun. And I was like, I'll try a different payment method. I tried PayPal. I tried lots of different stuff. No luck. Just continued to spin. Finally, after a long time of it just spinning and trying to check out and trying, whatever, they just deleted it out of my cart. Many people's carts. I think they probably sold a bunch and they were bogged down and they were like, let's just clear all the carts and make everybody add it again, and that'll hopefully speed things up. At the same time that happened, I got through in the line on Walmart. I clicked purchase, I clicked pre-order, and I had it. Like it was good to go as soon as I got through that line. So that's where I ended up getting it from. I ended up sticking around on Best Buy's site once they did set it live. My friend Brad needed one, and I was trying to help him, but he ended up getting one on before I could get through for him. So that worked out. But yes, I got a pre-order. They did not cancel it so far. Confirmed. It's still showing up on Walmart's site. So I think I'm good to go.
Sorry, you got the bundle or just the console?
I got the bundle. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know it's a digital game, but my biggest thing for physical games, aside from like, oh, I want to have this forever, is always a lot of times physical is just cheaper. Yeah. It ends up being cheaper. So you save me $30 on a digital game, I'll buy it digitally. I don't mind. Especially a game I'm definitely gonna keep forever. So
cool. Yeah, it was exciting. So I wasn't actively going for a console, but I was enjoying seeing the discourse online and in our Discord, and I tried to get into Walmart a couple times just to see if I could get one. And who knows, like if I was able to add something to my cart, if I would have
Yeah.
had a change of heart. But these days are exciting and they don't come very often. So cool, that's fun.
Radic wants to know if I got a camera and a Pro controller. I did not get a camera. I have no use for it whatsoever that I know of. And the Pro controller, no, I may pick. Those seem like they're going to be more easily available. But either way, I have a Pro controller from the Switch 1, and I didn't really see a lot of benefit in the Switch 2 Pro controller comparatively. So I'm going to just try to use my Switch 1 Pro controller. And if I feel like I need to upgrade, then I'll buy the other one. But I didn't feel the need to pre-order it.
Right. Well, this story kind of ties into that. And again, this is opinion piece. We don't normally talk about these, but I thought the timing was good. This comes from gamesindustry.biz. Switch 2 publishers quietly step away from real physical game cards. Skip ahead a little bit here. In the midst of the excitement over the pre-orders and nervous speculation about the impact of tariffs, something that has slid a little bit under the radar is a curious little wrinkle concerning a large swath of the third-party software being launched with the Switch 2. Quite a few of those games appeared in retail listings alongside the pre-orders, which revealed that many publishers have opted to ship their software using Nintendo's new game key cards rather than conventional game cartridges. The decision making on this seems a little arbitrary in places, with some games seemingly shipping on game key cards in certain territories and real cartridges in others, but the overwhelming trend among third-party publishers to be towards preferring game key cards. In Japan, for example, almost every third-party game announced thus far is launching as a game key card. In essence, what this means is that when you buy a physical Switch 2 game from a third-party publisher, you are most likely not going to get an actual game in the box. The game key card is a new idea Nintendo has introduced for this console, seemingly in response to complaints from publishers about the high cost of manufacturing cartridges for the original Switch. It looks like a conventional Switch 2 cart, and it looks like a conventional Switch 2 cart, and it plugs into the console in the same way, but it only stores a license key for the software, not a copy of the game itself. This is not news. It's an opinion piece. And we didn't really get into the opinion part there, but I think the one thing I wanted to highlight was kind of the point of view of the third-party publisher, where, you're charging the same price for a game that you are in a digital storefront, and you're taking a hit for all the money that you have to spend to produce that cart and not making any more to compensate for that cost. Because there's a lot that goes into it. There's the production, there's the art, there's the distribution, supply chain stuff. There's a lot that goes into that. So, Ben, if you were going to purchase a third-party game for your Switch where you know that the card is just a game key, would that have the possibility to sway you towards a digital purchase, or do you still want that physical?
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason I like physical is literally just because I display like my game boxes, right? So like having a cool collection of games is cool. It's like part of my office's aesthetic. Like that's part of why I do it. But the other part is purely practical for me. And it does have a little bit to do with like the fact that I can always have that game, that as long as it doesn't get destroyed by rain or flood or whatever. Then there's another part that's like, well, I don't, if this goes offline or whatever, I don't want to not have it anymore. But when it comes to the idea that literally this is only a key to unlock the game, if it weren't for the aesthetic part, which it really isn't at that point for me, if it becomes, bird in hand, horse two in a bush, that was the wrong expression, but you get what I mean. If it becomes like I'm just buying a digital game and it's going to be extra irritating for me to have to put the cartridge in if I want to play it, then I don't know. I think I go with digital almost every time. I think the differences are games that I want to maybe loan to a friend, or I would say sell back or trade in, but I don't do that really. So for me, it's like, well, then just buy it digitally. If I'm just buying the license to play it digitally, just buy it digitally. And especially now that Nintendo has the thing where they're going to let you be able to actually share games with friends digitally, there's even less of a reason to have it physically. And honestly, I think that's probably part of what they're pushing for. Like they're trying to make it easier or more desirable to actually have it that way. Now, I do know that it's really hard, and it has been historically for Nintendo consoles to, I shouldn't say hard, but expensive. Used to, they really gate kept the who got to be able to have a cartridge for the old cartridge based systems. And then moving into the disc era, there was a little bit less discernment, but with the new cartridges for the Switch and the Switch 2, they're more limited and they're more exclusive on who can actually print on one of them. And then on top of that, it's not just all those other costs you mentioned, but they do have to pay for the cards themselves, of course. I mean, you have to pay for a Blu-ray if you go on PlayStation or whatever, but they're even a little bit different than that. So I don't really understand the convenience factor of this or anything other than the fact, sorry, I don't think it's more convenient to have a digital key card. I don't think any of it makes practical sense, except for the fact that theoretically, if you can sell your digital key or your key for a digital copy back to GameStop or another store like that, if traded in, maybe there's a little bit more of a incentive for people to get that. Because normally, if you buy a $60 game on a Switch digitally, you just have it. Whereas if you have the card that contains the key, maybe GameStop will give you $20 for it a year down the road. So I guess that's one advantage, but I don't really see Nintendo caring as much about that as they do the other reasons. And it being prohibitive for them to produce those cards for manufacturers. So all that to say, I think if I were going to buy a third-party game on the Switch, which I rarely do, at least on the Switch 1, unless it's an indie game, I would probably just opt to buy it digitally if I'm buying the key card anyway.
And those are rarely physical anyway. So
Correct.
Yeah, I'm with you. It just seems like such an awkward middle ground between physical and digital. And I can't help but feel like they're really trying to push us in a direction, and there's some pandering going on to the people who just don't want to change. But I don't know. I think about the reaction to the price of the Switch 2, and I can't help but see an opportunity for Nintendo to come out with an all digital Switch 2 that's a little bit cheaper, that, people might find to be a more attractive option. And I haven't seen the metrics on this, but I have to imagine that the vast majority of people across all consoles are making the majority of their purchases digitally these days. So, Sony's seeing that, Microsoft is seeing that, Nintendo is seeing that. And as we've just identified, physical production is expensive. And with game production development becoming so costly, they're going to be looking for places to cut corners. And I did do a little bit of research, and it kind of seems like the market just isn't ready yet. So the only thing I could kind of compare it to was the PS5 launch. We had a digital console and a physical console. Even that isn't a great comparison because the digital console was about $100 cheaper than the physical, which makes sense because you're not getting a disc drive. But the split was about 80-20. So 80% of people purchased physical. They still wanted the disc drive, whereas only 20% of people, idiots like me, bought the digital. So even though we appear to be buying most of our games digitally, people still want that option. I wonder how long that's going to stick around, though. But I do think there's an opportunity here for Nintendo to sell a few more digital-only consoles. And the Lite was digital-only, wasn't it? Or did it have a cartridge slot?
No, the Lite had a card. It had everything that the regular Switch had,
Just no
except it was
dock.
slightly smaller, and you couldn't detach the Joy-Cons.
Right. So we know they're interested in doing that sort of thing.
Or dock
i.e.
it.
releasing slightly cheaper consoles. And how do you make a console cheaper? You remove components. So
Yeah.
everything kind of seems to be trending in that direction. But yeah.
I did think of one other example of where those key cards could be beneficial. My son has a Switch, and there is no payment method attached to it. As a matter of fact, like my account's on there as the primary account. So if he wants to buy something, I'll typically split the cost with him and buy it on my own account, and then he gets to play it. Or if it's just something he wants to purchase himself totally, then I'll log in with my payment method, buy it, and take it off. It's not because I don't trust him, because I do. and he's also like really, pretty good with money. It's that I don't want him accidentally getting duped into anything, especially, he likes to play Fortnite. We've seen how many lawsuits have we seen about Fortnite tricking people into buying things accidentally. So he's 11 years old. I just don't want him to have a payment method attached to his account. So if that were the case and you wanted a digital game, but you didn't want to buy it on the Switch, or your grandma wanted to give it to a kid for their birthday or whatever, then I guess that's another use for it. But I still don't think that's not enough to make me switch over to it,
Right.
Personally. So, have we beaten that horse into the ground?
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
Fuck that horse.
Yeah, I hate that horse anyway. Let's see. Nintendo Switch 2 NVIDIA DLSS delivers impressive upscaling from 540p to 1080p in Street Fighter 6. This is from WCCFtech.com. And it says, DLSS support for the Nintendo Switch 2 is set to be a massive game changer for the system, as the AI upscaler is already delivering impressive results, upscaling low base resolutions to 1080p. In a recent hands-on report going over the system in both first and third-party games, the tech experts at Digital Foundry had the chance to try out Nintendo Switch 2 port of Street Fighter 6, among other games. The game is the first taste of a game. The game is the first taste of a game powered by Capcom's RE engine on the system, and it seems like it delivers, on all fronts, sporting stable 60 FPS gameplay in docked mode, with some visual cutbacks in line with those featured in the PS4 and Xbox Series S versions over the others. More interesting is that the game is not running at native 1080p resolution, as early analysis of the footage suggested, but at 1080p resolution upscaled from the base 540p resolution with DLSS. Long story short, the DLSS tech in the Switch is making games that are running at a very low resolution appear to be running at a very high resolution. And that's not only impressive for technology in general, I think that's essential for a device like the Switch that we know is, even though it's the new console, still underpowered in comparison to its counterparts. Dave, is this going to make you even more emboldened to play AAA games on your Switch, as you've been known to do?
Well, I mean the data is there. It's the Digital Foundry has spoken. So why? I mean, Nintendo's always been the from a technical and fidelity standpoint, we're not the best, but we compensate for that with really fun, really good first party games. And I think since like the GameCube era, Nintendo platforms were the place that you didn't play games that you could play on other consoles, because they were always, with GameCube, they were slightly better. With Wii, they were a lot better on other consoles. And then with Switch, it was like, what the hell are you doing? Why would anyone play a game that's available on another console on a Switch? Like, who would do that, Ben?
Yeah, I've never heard of anybody doing that.
So with again, I'll go back to the price tag of the Switch. It's Nintendo appears to have made hardware decisions to hopefully drive people towards the direction of the Switch with some third-party titles, because that's been kind of their negative persona for many years, and maybe they're trying to shake that, because I got to imagine that everybody wants every Mario and Zelda title, but Nintendo's probably losing money on everybody always going somewhere else for any third-party game. So this appears to be a step in the right direction. I still think Switch 2 is going to be like a generation and a half behind like the current gen. But, in some cases, the trade-off of having something that's flexible and mobile might be worth it for, something that's slightly less enhanced from a visual perspective. I think about something like Hogwarts Legacy, and I'm like, I don't care how fun that game would have been to play on the go on the Switch. I saw screenshots, I saw videos. I'm like, no, absolutely not. But hey, if they invest a little bit of money in the tech to make it a little bit better, maybe then that's worth it. But time will tell. But it looks like Nintendo's moving in the right direction with this one. And you just said in the last story that you don't play third-party games on Switch unless they're indies. So time will tell.
Yeah.
If that changes for you too.
Yeah, it certainly could. I mean, I'm still gonna say it's not my preferred way to play. Like I I still, if a game is available on PC, prefer it on PC, just in general. Much because I like mouse and keyboard. But hey, Switch 2 has a mouse. So, you know,
Yeah.
you never know, man. You never know. According to Derek, CDPR said Cyberpunk on Switch 2 is better than on Steam Deck, which is interesting to me. And not that surprising, but it is interesting. Like it's unbelievable to me that Cyberpunk is still like one of the top most played games on Steam Deck. And so is Elden Ring.
Right.
Both those, not necessarily just because of performance, but because neither one of those are games I want to play handheld. But that's just me. Edward Walton, the Clair Obscur spoiler, says, I find it interesting that Switch 2 is the only... I'm sorry to rag on you, Edward. I just have to. Find it interesting that Switch 2 is the only NVIDIA handheld that will be on the market, as they have not bothered to partner with anyone else to release PC handhelds. Maybe intentional? It could be. Maybe they had an exclusivity agreement ahead of time and we just didn't hear about it. Or maybe... I don't know. Maybe nobody else has asked them. It's hard to say. Let's move on to number 4. Oblivion Remaster crosses 4 million copies. Dave, this is just a Twitter post that says, Bethesda Game Studios says, we are so grateful to the over 4 million of you that have already ventured into Cyrodiil with Oblivion Remastered. Thank you. This is a tweet from 4 days ago, so it may not be 5 million yet, but it's certainly over 4 million at this point. Dave, we talked a little bit about Oblivion last week and the hype. Have you been any more tempted to hop in?
I have, just because with Bethesda games, there's often a lot of endearing jank, I guess, and there have been some weird stuff that have come online with Oblivion, and a game this big, like especially when you're shoehorning something from creation into Unreal Engine 5 in the weird Frankenstein way that they've done it. It's bound to happen, but generally speaking, it seems pretty well received. Having watched a lot of people play it, it kind of seems to really be leaning into this nostalgia thing. And as I said last week, I'm really not much of an Elder Scrolls guy. I didn't play Oblivion. Only played a little bit of Skyrim. Played quite a bit of online, but I just don't know if it would do it for me. And I'm playing Avowed at the moment, and yeah, there's just other stuff that's taking my time. But I think as a case study, it's very interesting because I don't know if we've seen a remaster / remake being done in this fashion before, where, you know, as I just mentioned, you're kind of taking the bones of an old game and you're putting it into a new engine, and it's kind of a bit of both. Remaster / remake. It looks great, and it deserves every copy it's sold. And I do wonder, like, nostalgia is a moving target. It you know, the games that we were remaking a few years back, you know, we need to kind of move ahead, and we're slowly getting into a time where the games that we're going to want remade they're getting a lot bigger and they're getting a lot more ambitious. So like remaking Resident Evil 2 is a lot different than remaking Oblivion. So I think publishers are probably looking at this and being like, okay, Bethesda and Virtuos found a pretty ingenious way to remake a game that didn't cost them a whole lot of money, predictably, and is being received really, really well. And I think they're probably drooling at that idea that, you know, we have a whole back catalog of games that we can remake, but they're just so big. So how do we do it in a cost-effective manner? Because these remakes are risky, you know. There's no guarantee that people are going to flock back and you know, purchase these games outright. So I think it's an interesting case study, and I think a lot of people are paying attention to the approach that Bethesda took with this. And we could be seeing some really big and really cool old games get revived in a similar manner. So I don't know. Did you end up checking it out?
No, I still haven't. I knew I wanted to save this one for after the other things like Clair Obscur that I wanted to play. So I'll get to it eventually. I don't know if I'll play the whole way through it. I've played this game more than once over the last 20 years. So, you know, I'm not like super, I gotta play it, but also I do love it. So why not? The thing I'm curious about, Dave, why did they launch this game when they did? It was a shadow drop, even though everybody knew it was coming. And it's got some jank in it, some bugs, which you would expect from a new Bethesda game, but a Bethesda game that's 20 years old that they didn't have a specific release date timeline for. Why would they drop it on top of their biggest Game Pass get, third party Game Pass get of the year? I imagine they did not pay nothing to Clair Obscur for the rights to have that on Game Pass. So why potentially cost yourselves any customers when you have potentially your biggest third party get for your biggest service in the same week? I don't understand it.
And Doom in 2 weeks. Like it's
Yeah.
it's kind of a crowded time, and as good as this looks for Game Pass and Microsoft at the moment, what is it going to look like in June and July? And I mentioned it last week. Like I don't know off the top of my head what Microsoft big titles are in the summer, but like why couldn't this have waited, or why couldn't you have pushed Clair Obscur for this? And luckily we're about talking about it in a minute, but Clair Obscur has been received really, really well. But what if it wasn't? What if
Yeah.
this actually overshadowed what could be one of the best games to come out this year because release dates just weren't picked properly? And I feel like Oblivion would have been the perfect sort of shoehorn game just to hold people over until the holiday. So I totally agree with you. We just started the fiscal year. Maybe it's an earnings thing. Maybe it's a front loading thing. I don't know what it is, but you can't ignore the fact that you have Oblivion, Clair Obscur, and Doom. And I don't think Clair Obscur was like a Helldivers type surprise for Microsoft. I think they knew what they had. They put a lot of money into promoting this game, and so they can't use that excuse. But I don't know. Maybe it's something about loading up April to kind of benefit for the rest of the year. But it is weird. I agree with you.
There is also the potential, although I don't want to give them this much credit, even though I like Microsoft, I don't know that I always agree with their marketing methods. There is the potential that they were like, okay, we've got a big investment coming up. We need to make sure people are already in Game Pass. Let's go ahead and just drop Oblivion. I mean, I'm sure they planned the date months ago, don't get me wrong, but let's go ahead and just drop Oblivion. We'll get people who aren't subscribed in the door, people who are subscribed and haven't checked in a while to look. And then when Clair Obscur comes out, they'll already be a part of it and they feel like they can play it. And that's the value they need to continue their Game Pass subscription. Again, I don't want to, like, it's not that I don't want to give them that credit. I just don't believe that's the reason, but you could see it being a reason, I suppose.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, we know they like their shadow drops. We have Summer Game Show Fest. There's their Xbox Game Showcase coming in June. So you're right, there could be something that we don't know about.
There could be. Something that a lot of us didn't know about until last week is how many copies Clair Obscur was going to sell. Could I connect those two things well enough? Was that a good transition, Dave? Okay, thank you.
Let's just move on.
Thank you for the validation. Clair Obscur's Twitter account tweets, and here we are 3 days after launch, 1 million copies sold. This was 2 days ago. Says, thank you for believing in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. We're going to move right into what we've been playing, but while we're on this very specific point, Dave, I want to point out, they clarified elsewhere, they've sold 1 million copies. This is not 1 million people have played.
Mm-hmm.
For a 30-person studio, with the help of some support studios, of course, Sandfall Games, got to be pretty exciting, I would imagine.
30-person French studio. So that's a lot of naps, and they churned out something pretty cool.
That's
new IP, small studio. It's a game with a weird premise. It's an eccentric aesthetic, and kind of, I would argue a niche gameplay genre in turn-based combat. And, that's a lot kind of working against you in a market that kind of favors things a little bit more safe. So good for them. I mean, this is an incredible story, and I think it's safe to say that we have an early Game of the Year contender on our hands. So I don't know. I kind of mentioned that this was heavily marketed by Microsoft in the in the game showcase from June last year. That's when it was revealed, and then it was shown again after in another Xbox game showcase. This was a big piece for Game Pass. This wasn't just something they shoehorned into one of their showcases, but this is something that Microsoft wanted to kind of headline with their Game Pass offering. So good for them. And I also think it's probably time to have a closer look at Kepler Interactive. We talk a lot about Annapurna and Devolver and these kind of smaller publishers, but I just kind of looked through their catalog. Sifu, Pacific Drive, Bionic Bay, which just came out, Cat motherfucking Quest. Yep. Kepler's putting out publishing some pretty good games. So yeah, this is
Ultros.
Fantastic.
Don't forget about
Ultros, yeah, that's another one. So yeah, I mean, we talked about this in the lead up to Clair Obscur. I think, we were excited for it. A lot of people in our Discord were excited for it, but to see it explode like this it's pretty awesome. So I'm very happy for this team, and I'm very happy that a lot of people are playing this, despite some things that might turn the general masses off. So yeah, good for them.
Kepler is partially owned by NetEase.
Okay.
Just as a heads up, that's fine, but we have a lot to say about NetEase and Chinese gaming companies. So I just wanted to say that is a thing. Which, hey, if it's a good game, it's a good game. Dave, they did publish Scorn though, so I don't know. That may be the only strike against them so far. Dave, Edward said the exact same thing that I was just about to say. He said, awkward, these are ex-Ubisoft devs, which raises the question, WTF is Ubisoft doing over there? A lot of these devs, maybe even most of them, came from Ubisoft that form Sandfall. I'm not going to say this is an uber unique game or it's doing things unlike any other game, but so far that I've played of this game, which we'll talk about in a minute, this is a very solid game. And it's innovative in a lot of ways. And we haven't seen a lot of that from Ubisoft lately. So makes me wonder, what's going on over there. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the things. But let's get into what we're excited to talk about. Well, we're excited to talk about it all, but what have we been playing? And the only thing both of us have on our list is Clair Obscur. Dave, why don't you kick it off? Start talking about this game.
Sure.
I'll just hop in when it makes sense.
Clair Obscur, I'm a little annoyed because I think it was the story trailer. It wasn't the first time I'd seen this game, but I think it was the second time that I saw the story trailer for Clair Obscur that hooked me and got me thinking, okay, I know this is turn-based strategy. This is not a type of game I normally kind of gravitate to, but the story trailer really kind of got its hooks into me. And somebody I think it was Benji in our Discord was saying they did such an amazing job with the prologue and just getting the game to sink its teeth into you. And the reason why I was annoyed at that trailer is because the same trailer that hooked me on the game is the one that kind of spoiled the prologue for me. Like, I really wish I came into that fresh because it's such a unique story setup. I'm playing the game and I'm like, this is based off a book, right? Like there's a movie or something. Like, this can't just be an original story. Like generally we're so used to things being derivative in video games, and this is anything but that. And it's just such an engrossing and emotional and dramatic sort of hook that gets you into the game. And it just kind of, it doesn't really die down. So full disclosure, I'm only in Act 1. I think, Ben, you're a little bit ahead of me, but we're still fairly early days in this game. We've got a lot of people on our Discord spoiling stuff who are further in the game. And it appears as though, the story doesn't
unintentionally,
really
in fairness, unintentionally.
So it's not like it starts out with a bang and it kind of fizzles out. Like, this is, you're really kind of the experience lasts in a really profound way, and I'm loving it. It's great. As I said, this is not normally a genre game that I'm into. I think the last game I played like this was Persona 5. And in Clair Obscur, you don't have to hit on high school children, so I like this a little bit better. But it's I'm I don't know. I I think with turn-based strategy, I often just feel like I'm kind of reactionary with video games. I just want to, my smooth brain just wants to hit the button and see the action happen. Whereas with turn-based, you have to be a little bit more strategic, and you have to think a few moves ahead, and you have to think about your gear and stuff like that. And I have no problem uh turning the difficulty in this game down, because I just want to see what happens in the story. But to this point I haven't had to, because it's fairly intuitive, and it's somewhat action, almost rhythm based, with the dodging system and the parrying and the jumping. So I don't know. I think I'm having a really good time with the gameplay, despite my reservations on this. And there aren't too many characters that are being thrown at you, and you're finding little pieces of lore. Like, you just really need to like know what exactly happened. Like, I'm 5, 6, 7 hours in, and I'm still like trying to figure out, like, where am I and what is happening with the rest of the world and all that kind of stuff. So yes, Ed, it clicks for me. So I wish I had more time to play it. But yeah, Clair Obscur is everybody needs to play this game, whether you get it on Game Pass or go out and buy it. It's something you need to experience. People are going to be talking about this for the rest of the year. And, whether you get to it now or later, I think it's something you need to experience. There are a couple things I do need to nitpick on, and they're things I'm probably not going to care about once I get to the end of the game and inevitably cry, because this is just a game that's going to make me cry, Ben. I know it. It's just going to happen.
The fact that you haven't cried already makes me think you're less than human.
I almost cried in the beginning. That was again, but I knew it was happening, but it was still emotional. It was really, really emotional.
Dave, I gotta butt in and say, one of the awesome things that I started doing years ago, I didn't know it was awesome at the time, but I intentionally started doing it, was if I watch one thing about a game, like the initial reveal trailer or whatever, and I'm interested, I just don't look at anything else. I go on blackout. And it's not great for someone who both works in games and also talks about games on a podcast. But I'll tell you, it's rewarding, because, again, no spoilers, I had zero idea of the plot setup of this game. When I say zero, I mean like 2% of an idea. I knew there was an expedition, right? And there was some evil that you had to defeat, and that it was somewhat turn-based. But I was so happy I was able to go in blind, because I did not see anything coming from the very beginning. And it's amazing how the opening, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes of that game, you experience so little of those characters' time. Like, you're with them for so little time. And by the 45 minutes in, by the end of the prologue, you're so invested. And the circumstances that unfold are just like devastating to you. I guess maybe that's a little bit of a spoiler, but yeah, sorry.
It's just like sad away, because they're all so used to it. I'm not going to spoiler anything, but like, if you played, you know what I'm talking about. And you have conversations with NPCs, and then, something happens and you're like, they're so numb to this. And it's just like, it's painful to watch, because they've seen it happen so many times. So yeah, 100%.
The train is really loud tonight.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can tell, but it's really loud tonight.
I guess I'll quickly so there's
it's all good. Yeah.
Yeah. There's just two things that are I've gotten lost a couple times. This is a game where small environments, semi-linear and maybe a little bit too semi. Granted, I'm in an area right now which I think is supposed to be kind of a maze. It's supposed to be difficult to find what you're looking for. But I have spent too much time just kind of going around in circles. And but even in the previous area, I got lost a couple times, because, if you go off the beaten path, you're going to find something that's really, really cool, and it's going to be useful to you, and it's going to help you level up. But it's gotten to a point a couple times where I'm like, this is getting frustrating. But again, it's a small little nitpicky thing. The other thing is, there's some platforming in this game, and most of the time it's okay, but it does feel kind of awkward in a game like this. And I've seen some stuff online, and I know it gets a little bit more involved as you move through the game. It appears to be mostly optional stuff, but in any case, it's I don't know, something, the responsiveness is a little bit off, but other than those two things, I'm having a great time with this, and I just want to play it. I'm also playing it on Series S, which is the worst place to play it. Yeah, it's a bit like watching Avatar on a plane. Like, it's just, but even with that said, even at low frame rate, lots of pop in, that kind of stuff, I don't care, because everything's just so beautiful. It's got amazing art direction, and the color palette is, it's like an explosion for your eyes, and it's ever changing. So yeah, I'll stop talking and I'll let you kind of go on now.
No, it's good. It's good. Yeah, unlike you, I am a bigger, I'm a bigger turn-based fan than you are. Now, if you're talking about like getting super in depth to really super grindy RPGs that are turn-based, then I'm not the biggest fan of, or at least I'm less of a fan of it than some. But I definitely like turn-based as a gameplay style more. And the thing I love about this is that even though it is turn-based, there's so much of the game that is just fluid movement. And you even mentioned some platforming, which in a lot of turn-based games, you don't really get that kind of thing. One, because many turn-based games, even brand new ones, are 2D, or, you know, at least in a style that doesn't really allow for that, or build that into it. And so it's got kind of like a mix of gameplay styles that's really cool. This is not a spoiler, but, you know, some people may consider, as you progress, you gain party members, right? And with every new party member, you add to your repertoire, and you learn new things. And not only like do your characters learn new things, new abilities and everything, but you as a player learn new things, and you can pair one person's abilities with the next and the next to be able to string those together to create like some amazingly devastating moves, or restorative excuse me, restorative moves as well. I've got like a serious headache, and I've also got a cough, so the two combined are not really working for me today. But just the fact that you can string those things together and create these amazing combos and everything, and it's awesome. I also love the fact that, like, on the top left of your screen, it shows you the order of who's going to go next, and you can actually impact that to some extent with different stats and moves that you can perform, to make it so that your character goes a little faster, or that they perform more often, or that they, with certain types of skills, can stop the enemy from taking their turn, etc. So, like, the gameplay mechanics themselves are really cool, and the exploration is huge. I agree that there are a few spots where I've gotten kind of lost or turned around, but I fully know that that's my fault, because as long as I can remember, anytime there was a game where I could explore every nook and cranny, I would, and I do. And I'm not a completionist. Like, I don't need to go get the platinum for this game by any means. I'm playing on PS5, by the way. I don't need to go get the platinum for this game. But if there's something to be discovered, I want to discover it.
Like, you want to find all those journals, right?
I'd love to find all those journals. I'm not probably going to spend dozens of hours going and trying for the platinum trophy or anything to find all of them. But if it's there and I can find it without looking it up, I want to find it.
Right.
And probably if I don't end up going for the platinum by the time this game is over, I'll go back and look for those lore bits that I missed along the way, because they add so much to the story. So I am very much enjoying both the gameplay and the story of this game. As I mentioned earlier, like the first, less than an hour of the game hooked me, and I've not felt in any way, shape, or form bored or uninterested thus far. I'm only like about 7-8 hours in, which I think is almost like a third of the base story game. So it's not nothing, but I'm just constantly amazed by the fact that they're able to hold my attention, because I know my attention span, and sometimes it's not very long. A lot of games that start out with like a great hook, and then they immediately toss you into gameplay, the gameplay takes priority over the story, and it's just like, okay, well, we're on a quest now. And then you play the whole game and you grind for 100 hours, and then you get to the end, and it's like, here's the ending. And this is not that kind of game. It's constantly piecing out different pieces of not only just lore, but really interesting lore. And I was immediately invested in the world building of this game. So I cannot speak highly enough about it at this point. As a matter of fact, the night I started playing this game, we had gone over to some friend's house. I'm sorry, the day I started playing it, we'd gone over to some friend's house that night for dinner. And this guy, he likes games, but mostly like Age of Empires 2 and like stuff like that. And I was like, dude, I know this isn't really your jam, but you have to play this game. Like I've only played 2 hours of it at that point. I was like, but I know already that this is a game you have to play. Because like you said earlier, Dave, I think this is a game as many people as can should experience it. And there's going to be some people who don't like it. And I've not hit the ending. Maybe it doesn't pay off. I don't know. And that's okay. But already from the first few hours of this game that I've played, I told my wife, I'm like, I feel something about this game that I haven't felt since I played Nier Automata the first time. And I know that that's a sensitive subject for some people, but I really got wrapped up immediately in Nier Automata's story. And that's the same way I feel about this. Very different games, but also share a lot of similarities, I think.
Yeah, I don't talk to my wife about video games, but
I barely do ever. Yeah.
I went to my wife and I'm like, I have to tell you about this game I'm playing. It's got Robert Pattinson in it with a beard, and this crazy stuff happens, and it like, I'm shook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave, apparently they signed the movie deal for this game before, like in January, before this game was even out.
I'm not surprised, and I'm happy to hear that. But
Yeah.
if there was a book, I would have already purchased that book, because this seems like something that would be perfect for literature. But,
Yeah. I told my wife about it, and I know she's never going to play it or want to watch it or anything. And I just told her the very basic premise, and she's like, I need a movie of that. That'd be great. I'm like, well, guess what? It's coming. Ed says he has already earmarked this as his next game in like 2 weeks.
this is
Okay,
an Ed
Ed.
game. I don't know Ed that well, but I think this is an Ed game.
I don't really know what Ed likes, because sometimes I think he's going to like something and he hates it, and vice versa. So,
Right.
I do have one other thing, Dave, if we're done talking about Clair Obscur.
Yep.
This is a game that I've been playing for work, so take everything I'm about to say with a huge grain of salt. Do not trust me on this. Go and look for yourself, because this has not been reviewing a game. This has been talking about a game he likes that he's playing for work. It's called Kamos. It just came out yesterday. It's on Steam, PC only for right now. There may be some other developments in the future. I don't know. It's verified for Steam Deck. Just came out yesterday. It's a game by a Finnish studio called Pepperbox Studios that is it's a turn-based match 3 game. And basically you're assembling different pieces of a match 3 in order to give your character stats, your medieval type character stats, so that they can fight against a computer generated character. Little story bits, mapping, lots of collectible loot. The thing I think is coolest about this game, and someone else I showed this to immediately picked up on it, was like when you take different stats, even though the characters are, in very pixelated art, it represents the different type of gear that you're wearing and everything in that image. So I'm not going to give like a full exhaustive review of it, because I'm not just like trying to promote this game, but I'm also not trying to review it fully either. I'm just saying this is a cool game. I work with a lot of games, and I really think this one has something like a little extra something to it. And it's like it's on launch discount for $7.99 right now. Runs great on Steam Deck. Go give it a shot. KAAMOS. I do not receive any direct compensation, but I am paid by the company publishing it technically. So again, take my opinion with a very giant grain of salt, please. And that's that. Well, thank you for typing that in, Dave.
I figured the spelling warranted having it typed out.
Yeah. It's a tricky one. I mean, it's a Finnish word that is actually like the premise is like if the sun went down and never came back up. That's essentially the premise of the game. So I think that's it, Dave. I think that's all we got to say. We made it. We still made it over an hour without Brandon here.
The Fable's not short show.
Imagine how long this show would have been with Brandon.
Yeah.
Don't forget to check us out at patreon.com/handsomefandom. We appreciate everybody who can hang out with us there whenever you want for $1 or more a month. head over to Discord, where you can definitely hang out with us whenever you want. handsofandom.com/Discord. We appreciate having everybody there all the time. That's it for me. That's it for Dave. I think we're out of here. What are you doing now, Dave? What are you going to do next?
I'm going to watch the hockey game.
Nice. All right, let's go then. We got to go fast.
Good night.